Ancient Rome's most important secret agent might have been a duck. Beyond the legions and gladiators, these common birds held a hidden power over the empire's fate. You are about to uncover the bizarre and forgotten truth of how ducks shaped Roman history, from the battlefields to the temples and the emperor's own table. By the end of this, you will see this ancient civilization in a completely new light. How did a duck's flight decide the launch of a military campaign? And why was its quack considered a message from the gods? What is the first thing that comes to mind when you think of a duck's purpose? The soft mud along the Tiber River was a constant chorus of quiet quacks. Mallards, teals, and other waterfowl were not rare sights, but a familiar part of the Roman soundscape, thriving in the marshes, riverbanks, and even the managed fish ponds of country villas. These birds were far more than just decorations on the water. They were a tangible resource, a living ingredient woven into the fabric of Roman existence. On the tables of both the wealthy and the common people, duck was a valued source of food, its eggs and meat providing essential sustenance, but their role extended far beyond the kitchen. The duck's very nature, its ability to move between the elements of water, land, and air, made it a powerful symbol. It represented a bridge between worlds, a creature that could traverse the boundary between the mundane and the divine. This deep, symbolic importance meant the duck was never just a bird. It was a potential omen, a sacred vessel, and a key to understanding the will of the gods. How did this everyday presence become a central player in the empire's most critical moments? This deep connection to the divine transformed the Roman duck into a living oracle. When a consul stood on the Capitoline Hill, an augur by his side, he was not just looking at birds. He was reading the very handwriting of the gods, and ducks provided a crucial script. Their flight patterns, the direction of their movement, even the sound of their quacks were all meticulously decoded. A duck flying from the east, the direction of the rising sun, was often seen as a powerful sign of divine favor, a green light from Jupiter himself for a planned military expedition. Conversely, a duck taking flight to the west, toward the setting sun, could be interpreted as a dire warning, a celestial command to halt all proceedings. This was not mere superstition, it was a formal branch of statecraft. Before laying the foundation for a new temple or a bridge, an augur would carefully observe the local waterfowl. If a duck landed peacefully on the proposed site, it was a blessing, a sign that the gods approved of the location. But if the birds scattered in alarm, the message was clear: the ground was displeasing to the divine, and the entire project would be relocated. Can you envision the weight of that moment? The fate of an entire public works project resting on the behavior of a single duck. These feathered messengers were literally shaping the Roman skyline, one quack at a time. Their perceived ability to traverse worlds made them perfect intermediaries, their every action a potential sentence in the unfolding story of the empire. Every Roman child knows the legend of the honking geese who saved the Capitoline from a Gallic invasion. Their story is carved into the national identity, a tale of sacred birds serving as feathered sentinels for the state. But this grand, singular event obscures a quieter, more pervasive reality. While the sacred geese protected the hilltops of the gods, it was the common duck that guarded the homes and farms of the Roman people. Ducks were the unsung, everyday guardians of the empire. Their value was not in one heroic moment of alarm, but in their constant, reliable nature. On a typical farmstead, a stranger's approach would send the resident ducks into a chorus of agitated quacks and frantic wing flapping. This was not a random disturbance. It was a sophisticated biological security system. The ducks' acute hearing and inherent wariness made them perfect watch creatures, their noise providing a crucial few moments of warning against intruders, both human and animal. This practical vigilance translated into powerful symbolism within the Roman home. Small amulets and mosaics depicting ducks were not merely decorative, they were potent symbols of protection, a wish for the household to be as alert and secure as the birds in the farm pond. So while history remembers the geese for their one famous night, the ducks earned their keep day after day, year after year, their quiet quacks forming a continuous, living perimeter around the heart of Roman life. How many threats were thwarted not by a legendary honk, but by the simple, reliable alarm of a duck. This constant presence in the field and the home inevitably led to the Roman kitchen. While the duck served as a guardian and an omen, it also held a place of honor on the dining table, a culinary delight that spanned the social classes of the empire. For the average Roman citizen, a wild duck, perhaps snared from the local marsh, was a welcome and flavorful addition to the diet, a break from the usual pulse and grain. But for the wealthy elite, duck was elevated to an art form. It was a centerpiece of extravagant banquets, a symbol of the host's sophistication and access to exotic ingredients. We know this from surviving Roman cookbooks, particularly the one attributed to a gourmet named Apicius. His collection reveals recipes that transform the humble duck into a true spectacle of flavor. One of the most famous preparations was duck roasted with figs. The bird would be stuffed with the sweet fruit, its skin basted with a mixture of honey and wine, creating a perfect balance of savory and sweet that would caramelize over the fire. Another elaborate dish was duck in a sweet and sour sauce, where the meat was cooked in a complex blend of vinegar, honey, peppercorns, and a rich assortment of herbs like lovage and rue. Can you almost smell the aroma of roasting duck, glazed with honey and spices, filling a wealthy Roman's triclinium? This was not simple sustenance, it was a performance. The effort required to source, prepare, and sauce the duck was a public display of wealth and culinary knowledge. The bird was raised in specialized enclosures on country villas, fattened on a diet of figs and barley to ensure a rich, tender flesh before its final journey to the kitchen. From the commoner's simple stew to the senator's lavish feast, the duck provided a taste of luxury, proving that its role in Roman life was as versatile in the pot as it was in the omen. This culinary demand created an entire industry in the Roman countryside. Raising ducks was far from a casual hobby. It was a sophisticated agricultural science. Writers like Columella, whose detailed manuals guided Roman farmers, laid out precise instructions for maximizing duck production. The first step was the design of the duck pen, or vivarium. This was not just a simple fenced area. An ideal pen was a carefully managed ecosystem, featuring a flowing stream or a spring-fed pond to ensure clean water. The enclosure was partially shaded by trees and surrounded by fine meshed nets strung high overhead. This netting served a dual purpose. It prevented the valuable birds from flying away while also protecting them from hawks and other predators. The Romans understood that a stressed duck was an unproductive duck, so these pens were designed to mimic their natural habitat as closely as possible, encouraging them to breed and thrive. The breeding techniques themselves were remarkably advanced. Farmers were advised to select only the most vigorous birds for breeding stock, avoiding any that were sickly or weak. They knew to provide quiet, secluded nesting areas lined with soft straw where the hens could lay their clutches of eggs in peace. The feeding regimen was equally deliberate. While ducks would forage for insects and plants in their enclosure, they were also fattened on a specific diet of barley, wheat bran, and even crushed figs. This was not random feeding. It was a calculated effort to develop a richer, more flavorful meat for the elite market, a direct link from the farm to the extravagant banquet table. This specialized knowledge made the duck farmer a valuable tradesman. His success in rearing large, healthy flocks contributed directly to the local economy, supplying not only the nearby towns with eggs and meat, but also providing live birds for the lucrative luxury market in Rome itself. A thriving duck farm was a sign of a prosperous and well-managed estate, its quiet quacks echoing the sound of economic success. Walk through the ruins of a Roman villa, and you will often find them at your feet. Preserved in the vibrant tiles of floor mosaics, ducks swim in eternal stillness across dining rooms and courtyards. Their images are not grand political statements or scenes of myth, but something far more telling, snapshots of the world the Romans built and cherished. In the House of the Faun in Pompeii, one famous mosaic captures the lively chaos of the Nile, where ducks paddle contentedly among crocodiles and hippos, a symbol of the fertile, untamed nature that Rome sought to control. Elsewhere, a simple fresco from a suburban home might show a pair of mallards by a pond, a quiet wish for domestic harmony and prosperity painted directly onto the wall. These artistic choices were deliberate. A duck depicted on a household oil lamp or a piece of fine pottery was more than just a decoration. It was a token. It represented the bounty of a well-stocked estate, the security of a protected home, and the tranquility of a natural order brought under Roman control. The bird that served as a guardian and an omen in life became, in art, a permanent emblem of the good life. What does it say about a culture that it chose to surround itself with the image of this particular creature? It tells us they saw the duck not as a mere animal, but as an essential thread in the fabric of their daily existence, a humble yet powerful symbol of the peace and plenty they fought so hard to secure. Even the most disciplined legion on the march had to eat, and the duck provided a mobile, self-sustaining food source. Legions traversing Gaul or Britain would have encountered vast populations of wild waterfowl in the rivers and marshes along their routes. These birds were not just a lucky find for a hungry soldier, they were a targeted resource. Hunting parties would deliberately seek out duck nesting grounds, securing fresh meat and eggs to supplement the army's standard rations of hardtack and salted pork. This was a crucial infusion of protein and variety, a welcome relief from the monotonous march. But the duck's utility went far beyond the cooking pot. Every part of the bird was put to use in a military context. Its soft down and larger feathers were meticulously collected. The down could be stuffed into pillows or cloaks, providing a small measure of comfort against the cold ground of a frontier outpost. The sturdy wing feathers, however, had a more direct military application. They were ideal for fletching arrows, helping to guide the projectiles of the army's auxiliary archers with precision. Can you picture a Roman arrow, its flight stabilized by a feather that once belonged to a duck paddling peacefully in a northern European marsh? The connection runs even deeper. When a legion made camp near a river, the local ducks became an unintentional part of its security. Their predictable behavior created a natural alarm system. Any movement in the reeds or across the water after dark, whether from a scouting enemy party or a wild animal, would disturb the birds, sending them into a chorus of startled quacks and frantic splashing. This auditory tripwire gave the night watch a vital few seconds of warning, a feathered sentry service that cost the Empire nothing. Some historians even speculate that ducks were deliberately kept within large, semi-permanent forts for pest control, their endless appetite for insects helping to manage the camp's sanitation. From the mess kit to the watchtower, the humble duck was quietly enlisted in the service of Rome's legions, its contributions woven into the very fabric of military life on the frontier. One Roman writer captured the duck's many roles with a mix of sharp observation and pure wonder. Pliny the Elder, in his massive work Natural History, recorded everything known about the world, and his entries on ducks are a fascinating window into the Roman mind. He notes their migratory patterns with surprising accuracy, describing how they fly in a distinct V formation to conserve energy, a true fact that modern science would later confirm. He writes of their seasonal disappearances and returns, correctly interpreting this as long-distance travel to escape the winter cold. Yet his scientific account quickly veers into the extraordinary. Pliny asserts that ducks can sleep while floating, with one part of their brain always awake and alert for danger, an observation that brushes against the truth of unihemispheric sleep in birds. But then he makes a more peculiar claim, that a duck will sometimes swallow a specific stone that holds the power to neutralize poison, a bezoar it could use to save itself from a toxic meal. This blend of the factual and the fantastical reveals how the Romans saw the natural world, a place where careful study and myth were not yet fully separated. Pliny's work also details the duck's use in Roman medicine, moving the bird from the dinner plate to the doctor's kit. He prescribes duck blood as a remedy for certain fevers and recommends its fat, mixed with other ingredients, as a salve for burns. Can you envision a Roman household relying on a jar of duck fat as a first aid essential? These were not random superstitions, but applications based on the duck's perceived hardy nature and its connection to life-giving water. Pliny's record shows us a culture trying to systematize its knowledge, where a duck was simultaneously a biological creature, a reservoir of potent cures, and a being capable of magical self-preservation. His writings freeze in time a moment when the line between science and legend was beautifully, and sometimes bizarrely, blurred. The practice of reading ducks was a formal science, a high-stakes ritual governed by strict rules. An augur, a state-appointed priest, did not simply wander down to the riverbank and glance at the birds. He would first define a sacred space, a templum, in the sky above a body of water. Standing within his own designated area, he would offer a prayer to the gods, marking this zone as a divine communication channel. His entire focus would then narrow to the ducks within that holy perimeter. Every action they took was a potential word from the gods. The direction of their flight was paramount. A formation moving from the augur's left, the east, was an excellent omen, signaling divine approval. But ducks seen flying from the right, the west, could bring all state business to a grinding halt. It was not just their path, but their behavior. Were the birds feeding peacefully, dabbling in the water with calm, deliberate movements? This was a sign of stability and coming prosperity, perhaps a prediction of a bountiful harvest. Were they suddenly startled, taking to the air in a frantic, noisy burst? This was interpreted as a warning of impending conflict or political turmoil. Even their calls were deciphered. A steady chorus of quacks might indicate divine satisfaction, while a sudden, sharp alarm call could be a direct message to abandon a planned battle. The fate of consuls, the launch of legions, and the financial security of the state all pivoted on the augur's skilled interpretation of these feathered signals. Can you feel the tension in that sacred space, where the simple, natural life of a duck held the power to redirect the entire Roman Empire? This was not a vague superstition. It was a cornerstone of governance, a system where the gods spoke through wings and water. The same ducks that guided legions and delivered omens were also a valuable commodity. Their journey from a rural pond to a Roman market stall tracing the economic arteries of the empire. In the bustling Macelum, the central food market of any Roman town, the cacophony of vendors would have included the distinct sound of live ducks. They were sold from wooden cages, their feet sometimes tied, selected by urban households for their eggs or as a future centerpiece for a dinner party. But the trade in ducks was far more sophisticated than just selling live birds. It was an entire supply chain built on feathers, down, and eggs. Specialized merchants would travel to rural estates, purchasing not only the ducks themselves, but also huge sacks of feathers plucked during seasonal molting or after slaughter. These feathers were then sorted with meticulous care. The small, soft down was a luxury item, destined to be stuffed into pillows and mattresses for the wealthy, offering a comfort far superior to straw or rags. The larger, stronger wing and tail feathers had a different, more critical market. They were bundled and sold to fletchers, the artisans who made arrows for the Roman military. Can you picture the journey of a single duck feather, from a quiet country farm to the quiver of an archer stationed on the harsh frontier of Hadrian's Wall? This network connected the empire in a web of quiet commerce. A duck farmer in Gaul might never see the city of Rome, but his produce could end up insulating a senator against the winter chill or stabilizing the flight of a legionary's arrow. The humble duck egg, too, was a staple of this trade, carefully transported in straw-packed baskets to be sold as a fresh ingredient for urban bakeries and homes. This was not a niche market. It was a durable, empire-wide system that turned the byproducts of a common bird into pillows, weapons, and meals, proving that the duck's economic quack was as vital to Rome as its divine one. Yet this practical bird also swam through the sacred waters of Roman myth. The goddess Venus, born from the sea foam, was often depicted in art and poetry accompanied by waterfowl. Ducks and geese were seen as creatures sacred to her, symbols of the same fertile, life-giving forces she commanded. Their presence around ponds and marshes echoed her own connection to water and the genesis of life itself. To see a duck was to witness a small, living extension of the goddess's power over love and abundance. But the duck's divine role was not confined to grand Olympian deities. In the most intimate space of the Roman home, the pantry, dwelled the lares. These were the protective spirits of the household, the guardians of the family's stored wealth and food supply. While their most common symbols were dancing youths or serpents, some scholars suggest the duck may have served as a potent, if less formal, symbol for these essential spirits. Think of the duck's core virtues, vigilance and provision. Its image, perhaps on a small altar or a common household item, would have been a perfect, silent prayer for the lares to protect the grain from pests and the larder from thieves. The duck that provided the eggs and meat was also the spiritual sentinel ensuring that provisions remained safe and plentiful. This connection wove the bird directly into the spiritual safety net of the family, a feathered familiar watching over the very sustenance that allowed the Roman household, and by extension the empire itself, to thrive. How many Romans, offering a small prayer to the lares before a meal of duck, saw the entire cycle of life, death, and divine protection resting on their plate. Even the satirists could not resist the duck. In the crowded, noisy streets of Rome, where social climbing and outrageous greed were on full display, writers like Juvenal and Martial found the perfect symbol for the follies of their age. They wielded the duck not as a sacred omen, but as a weapon of wit. For these sharp-tongued observers, the bird became a living metaphor for gluttony and foolish pretension. Martial, in one of his many biting epigrams, paints a scene of a vulgar dinner host who serves a single, scrawny duck to his guests, while he himself feasts on a fattened goose. The message is clear and cruel. The duck here represents the cheapness and hypocrisy of a man who values his own comfort above the laws of hospitality. It is a social insult, served on a platter. Juvenal, in his broader attacks on a corrupt society, uses the duck to highlight sheer greed. He scoffs at the gourmand who, unsatisfied with a simple roasted bird, demands his duck be smothered in a sauce so expensive and complex it costs more than the cook. Can you hear the laughter in the Roman crowd as these lines were read? The immediate recognition of a familiar social type. The duck's journey from a divine messenger to a punchline is a profound one. It shows how deeply the bird was embedded in the everyday consciousness of the Romans. Its very commonness made it the ideal vehicle for satire, a mirror held up to the vices of the rich, the foolish, and the arrogant. In the hands of these poets, the quack was not a message from Jupiter, but the sound of mockery echoing through the forum. The same duck that served as a punchline for satirists was also a clear marker of social standing. In the stratified world of Rome, who owned ducks, and how many they owned, painted a precise picture of wealth and tradition. For a wealthy landowner, duck ownership was an enterprise of scale and sophistication. His country villa would feature extensive, purpose-built enclosures, the vivaria, where hundreds of ducks swam in spring-fed ponds. This was not a hobby, it was a statement of agricultural prowess and economic power. A large, thriving flock meant the owner possessed not just land, but the specialized knowledge and slave labor to manage a complex operation. It connected him to the idealized Roman virtue of being a gentleman farmer, a man rooted in the land and its bounty. The ducks he produced supplied his own lavish table and generated significant income. Their journey to the urban markets a testament to his influence. Contrast this with the reality for a plebeian family crammed into a multi-story insula apartment in the city. Their experience with ducks was profoundly different. They might keep 1 or 2 birds in a small makeshift pen on a balcony or in a dim courtyard. These urban ducks were not a symbol of agricultural wealth, but of sheer practicality. They were a walking, quacking larder, a source of fresh eggs, and, on a very special occasion, a small meal. Their value was immediate and personal, a tiny foothold in a self-sufficient lifestyle within the overwhelming density of the city. So when a Roman noble presented a fattened, fig-stuffed duck at a banquet, he was doing more than serving food. He was demonstrating his command over nature, his wealth, and his adherence to a traditional Roman identity. The bird on the plate was a silent, powerful announcement of one's place in the world. Could a simple duck truly separate the palace from the plebeian? In the intricate social code of Rome, its quack spoke volumes. A sick duck was a direct threat to a Roman farmer's livelihood, and their response reveals a fascinating blend of sharp observation and deep-rooted belief. Agricultural writers like Columella left detailed instructions that were equal parts practical medicine and sympathetic magic. For a duck suffering from digestive troubles or lethargy, the first prescription was often a simple change in diet. The bird would be isolated and fed a special gruel made from barley meal and water, a gentle remedy to soothe its system. For more serious ailments, like a respiratory infection causing labored breathing, the farmer might turn to his herb garden. He would crush leaves of rue or horehound, powerful plants known for their medicinal properties, and mix them into the duck's food. This was a genuinely practical application of botanical knowledge, an early form of veterinary science aimed at curing the animal. But the process did not end there. Can you picture the farmer also performing a small ritual, perhaps whispering a prayer to the goddess Pales, protector of flocks, as he administered the herbal mixture? He was covering all bases, using both the medicine he could see and the divine favor he could not. Some manuals even suggested hanging a specific charm or amulet near the duck enclosure to ward off the evil eye believed to cause sickness. This was the Roman mind in action, where a poultice and a prayer were not contradictory, but two essential tools for safeguarding a valuable asset. The health of the flock was a matter of economics, dinner, and divine will, all quacking in unison. The seasonal disappearance of ducks was a calendar event written in the sky, a mystery every Roman farmer and hunter watched for. As autumn's chill arrived, the vast flocks that filled the marshes would simply vanish. Then, with the warmth of spring, they would return just as suddenly. The Romans knew this pattern intimately, but their explanation for it was a blend of sharp observation and myth. Pliny the Elder recorded that ducks flew in a distinct V-shape, a fact we now know helps them conserve energy, but he and others believed their destination was a hidden, warmer land, perhaps a blessed isle reserved by the gods for the animal kingdom. Some thought the ducks descended into the mud to hibernate, sleeping through the winter in a state of suspended animation beneath the frozen earth. This was not a foolish guess. It was an attempt to make sense of a genuine wonder using the logic they had. For the farmer, this migration was a crucial signal. The departure of the ducks meant it was time to secure the harvest and prepare the villa for winter, their absence a warning of coming cold. The return of the first scouts in spring was as reliable as any sundial, a sign to begin the vital work of plowing and sowing. For the hunter, understanding this rhythm was the key to a successful hunt. He knew the marshes would be empty in deep winter, but the autumn and spring migrations offered a brief, abundant window when the birds were plentiful and easier to trap. Can you see the hunter standing by the reeds, his timing perfected by generations of watching the sky? The Roman duck was not just moving with the seasons, it was moving the very rhythm of Roman life, its flight path dictating the schedules of field and forest. The marshes at dawn were a stage for a silent, strategic hunt. Roman fowlers moved with practiced patience, their tools as varied as their prey. For the common man, the simplest method was the snare, a clever loop of cord or horsehair set among the reeds where ducks were known to feed. More ambitious hunters employed vast, almost invisible nets strung between poles across flight paths. A team of beaters would startle the flocks from the water, driving them directly into the wading mesh, a single sweep capturing dozens of birds at once. These techniques were not just about brute force. They were a study in understanding animal behavior, a quiet war of wits between man and fowl. The hunt was also a partnership, one that included a very specific kind of hound. Art from villas and texts on hunting describe spaniel-like dogs, trained not to bark, but to work in utter silence. They would swim stealthily through the reeds, flushing ducks toward the nets, or retrieving downed birds from the water with a soft mouth that would not damage the valuable meat. Can you see the scene, the morning mist rising off the water, the only sounds the gentle splash of the dog's paddle and the sudden rustle of wings? This was a vital source of food for a family or a village, a necessary skill for putting protein on the table. But for the Roman elite, the very same activity was transformed into pure leisure. In sprawling country estates, hunting was a sport, a social event that demonstrated a gentleman's mastery over his domain. A fresco might show a wealthy landowner, accompanied by friends and servants, not for the grim work of subsistence, but for the pleasure of the chase. The ducks they bagged were trophies of their skill, and their connection to the rustic virtues Rome so admired. The same bird, pursued with the same nets and the same silent dogs, could represent either survival or sophisticated amusement, a perfect mirror of the empire's own deep social divides. The sheer complexity of a Roman duck recipe was a performance in itself. Apicius details a dish called Anna's elixum, where the bird is first boiled, then roasted to achieve a perfectly crisp skin. But the true artistry was in the sauce, a symphony of contrasting flavors that would challenge any modern palate. The base was a generous pour of garum, the fermented fish sauce that was the Roman equivalent of soy sauce, providing a powerful, salty umami depth. Into this, the cook would stir aged wine vinegar for sharpness, a generous amount of honey for sweetness, and a careful grind of black peppercorns for heat. Then came the dried herbs, crushed in a mortar, fragrant cumin for its earthy warmth, and the distinctive celery-like punch of lovage. This complex blend was then thickened with a little olive oil and starch, creating a glossy, aromatic glaze that was poured over the carved duck just before serving. Can you taste that first bite, the savory meat giving way to a shocking and delightful dance of salty, sweet, and sour? For the most extravagant feasts, presentation was everything. A whole roast duck might be gilded with edible gold leaf, or meticulously rearranged on the platter to appear as if it were still alive, its feathers replaced by carefully placed parsley sprigs, and its beak polished. It was served not just as food, but as a spectacle, a testament to the host's wealth and his cook's virtuosity. The goal was to create a moment of awe, a conversation piece that would be remembered long after the last morsel was eaten. This was culinary theater, and the duck was its undisputed star. Even in the silence of the tomb, the duck had a voice. Carved into the cold marble of sarcophagi or painted on the walls of family burial chambers, its image carried a profound message of hope for the journey beyond. This was not a symbol of ending, but of transition. The duck, a creature perfectly at home in three worlds, became a powerful guide for the soul. Its ability to dive into water, walk on land, and fly into the air mirroring the Roman belief in a spirit moving from the earthly realm to the divine. On a child's sarcophagus, a simple carving of a duck might express a parent's quiet prayer for their little one's safe passage to the Elysian fields, a gentle companion for the final voyage. For a wealthy matron, a scene of ducks swimming among reeds on her tomb could be a wish for the eternal abundance and peace of the afterlife, a reflection of the prosperous life she had known and hoped to continue. Sometimes, the symbolism was deeply personal. If the deceased had been a devoted duck hunter or a farmer known for his prized flocks, including their image was a mark of individual identity, a way of saying this particular soul was the one who found joy in the marsh at dawn. The presence of this humble bird in such a sacred space tells us that the Romans saw death not as a full stop, but as a crossing. They surrounded their loved ones with symbols of provision, protection, and safe travel, ensuring the duck that watched over their homes in life would now guide their souls into eternity. Within the Roman farmyard, a clear hierarchy existed among the feathered livestock, and the duck carved out a surprisingly versatile role. Chickens were the undisputed champions of the egg basket, their reliable daily production making them an essential foundation of the diet. The goose, of course, was famous for its singular, legendary duty as a feathered watchman. But the duck offered something different, a masterful combination of benefits that no other bird could match. It provided a respectable supply of large, rich eggs, though not with the frantic consistency of a hen. Its meat was considered more flavorful and fatty than chicken, a prized alternative for the table. Its feathers and down were of superior quality for bedding and fletching, and its very nature imbued it with a spiritual weight that a common chicken simply did not possess. While a chicken was a utility and a goose was an alarm bell, the duck was a multi-purpose asset. It was the bird you kept not for one job, but for a dozen quiet contributions. Its value lay in this lack of specialization, its ability to provide a little bit of everything a Roman household needed to prosper. Could any other bird claim to feed the body, equip the soldier, guard the home, and speak to the gods? The duck's unique position was not one of supremacy, but of indispensable balance. Even the Latin language itself holds clues to the duck's deep cultural footprint. The primary word for duck, anas, echoes through the language in surprising ways, far beyond the farmyard or the dinner plate. Its influence begins with the very sound the bird makes, a quack rendered in Latin as tetranire. This was not merely an onomatopoeia. It was a verb that could be wielded to describe someone who chattered or squawked incessantly. While we lack a direct written phrase saying a person quacked like a duck, the linguistic connection is powerfully suggestive. To accuse someone of tetranire was to paint them as a noisy, perhaps foolish, background presence, their words as meaningless as the constant clamor from a pond. This idea of foolish noise connects to a deeper Roman value, the virtue of measured, purposeful speech. The wise statesman was silent and observant, while the gossip or the braggart was all sound and no substance, much like a duck whose quack served more as alarm than intelligent discourse. Can you hear the insult in that comparison? The subtle social put down woven into the fabric of their daily language. The duck's call, so vital for protection, could also become a metaphor for the kind of empty talk Rome's elite claimed to despise. This linguistic thread reveals a society that saw the natural world as a mirror for human behavior, where even a bird's call could define a social fault. But what happens when we dig? The story of the Roman duck is not just written in poetry and satire. It is carved into the very bones of the empire. Archaeological excavations have unearthed this reality layer by layer. In the ancient trash heaps, the kitchen middens of Roman military forts from Britain to the Danube, archaeologists consistently find the skeletal remains of ducks mixed in with those of chickens and pigs. These are not random bones. They are the discarded leftovers of legionary meals, proof that duck was a standard, expected part of the soldier's diet on the frontier. The distribution tells a powerful story. Wherever the Roman army marched and built its forts, the taste for duck marched right alongside it. Far from Rome, in the cold north, a soldier could still enjoy a familiar flavor from home, a small comfort that connected him to the world he had left behind. This was not a luxury, it was a staple. Its bones scattered across the empire are the silent witnesses to a vast, unified culinary culture. What does a pile of duck bones in a Scottish fort say about Roman power? It says that even on the edge of the known world, the rhythms of Roman life, down to the very food on the plate, were diligently maintained. But the evidence is not only found in the garbage. The volcanic ash of Pompeii preserved a more vivid picture. In the House of the Golden Cupids, A beautiful fresco shows a plump, perfectly rendered mallard, its head turned as if startled by the viewer. This was not a generic decoration. It was a specific, observed portrait of a bird the family knew, a symbol of the abundance they enjoyed right up until the moment the mountain fell. Elsewhere, in homes both grand and simple, we find small terracotta oil lamps molded in the shape of ducks. These were everyday objects, the kind you would light as evening fell. To own a duck lamp was to bring the symbol of protection and provision into your most intimate moments. Its flickering flame, a tiny, personal echo of the bird's sacred and practical roles. Each of these artifacts, from the broken bone to the painted wall, adds another piece to the puzzle. Together, they prove that the duck was not a footnote in Roman history, but a constant physical presence, woven into the daily fabric of life from the humblest kitchen to the most elegant dining room. The fall of Rome did not silence the quacks in the marsh, but it profoundly changed their meaning. As the Western Empire fragmented, the sophisticated systems that supported large-scale duck husbandry began to crumble. The sprawling, net-covered vivaria of the country villas fell into disrepair, their carefully managed ponds silting over. The intricate supply chains that delivered duck feathers to imperial fletchers and plump birds to urban markets snapped, retreating to local and regional trade. The formal science of augury, which had elevated the duck to a state-sponsored oracle, lost its political footing, its rituals fading from the halls of power. In the West, the duck's role contracted from an empire-wide institution to a localized resource, its prominence shifting from the divine to the desperately practical. It became a bird of the monastery pond and the feudal manor, valued more for its quiet provision than for its voice in the affairs of state. Yet in the East, within the enduring Byzantine Empire, a flicker of the old Roman world remained alive. In the great palaces of Constantinople, the traditions of the lavish banquet persisted. Byzantine gourmets, heirs to the recipes of Apicius, still prized duck prepared with honey, wine, and exotic spices, a culinary thread connecting them directly to their Roman past. More significantly, the symbolic language of the duck endured within the framework of Orthodox Christianity. The bird's ability to move between elements made it a potent symbol of transition and resurrection. Early Christian mosaics and illuminated manuscripts sometimes depicted ducks swimming in the waters of creation or alongside scenes of paradise, subtly repurposing their ancient Roman association with divine blessing and the afterlife into a new Christian context. The duck was no longer a direct messenger from Jupiter, but its image still carried an echo of the sacred, a testament to how deeply Roman symbolism had been woven into the cultural fabric. Back in the fractured kingdoms of medieval Europe, the duck found a new, hardened utility. It became a staple of the feudal economy, a reliable food source for a castle's larder or a peasant's pot. The meticulous breeding knowledge preserved by writers like Columella was not entirely lost. It was often safeguarded and practiced within the walls of monasteries. Monastic communities, with their disciplined record-keeping and agricultural self-sufficiency, became unexpected arks for Roman duck husbandry, maintaining flocks for their eggs, meat, and feathers. The bird's role as a guardian persisted, too, its alarm call now protecting a fortified manor's courtyard instead of a legionary encampment. The great cultural tapestry had frayed, but the essential threads of the duck's purpose, provision, and protection were picked up and rewoven into the very different pattern of medieval life. Its journey from a symbol of imperial might to a quiet asset of monastic and manorial survival shows not a disappearance, but a remarkable adaptation, proving that some truths are too useful to ever truly be forgotten. Even with all this evidence, a modern mind might still dismiss the Roman duck as just another item on the menu. One of the most persistent myths is that these birds were merely a source of food, a simple poultry option with no greater purpose. But as we have seen, that view is far too narrow. To reduce the duck to a single dish is to ignore the legionary whose arrow flew true because of its fletching, the farmer who relied on its alarm cry for security, and the augur who saw its flight as a command from Jupiter himself. This was not a creature of one dimension. It was a multifaceted asset, seamlessly integrated into the military, economic, and spiritual machinery of an empire. The bones in a fort's midden and the recipe in a cookbook tell only one small part of a much larger story. Another common misunderstanding is that their role was trivial, a quaint footnote in the grand narrative of legions and emperors. Yet the truth is, the duck's significance lay precisely in its quiet ubiquity. It was not a rare jewel displayed only on special occasions, but a constant working partner in the daily project of building and maintaining a civilization. Its value was not in a single legendary act, but in a million small, essential contributions that happened every single day, from the frontier to the forum. To overlook this is to miss a fundamental truth about how Rome actually functioned. The empire was not built by grand gestures alone, but by a complex web of practical, sustainable systems, and the duck was a vital, living thread in that web. So the next time you picture ancient Rome, let the image include more than just marble and armies. Imagine the soundscape filled with the quiet quacks from a riverbank, the sight of a V formation crossing the spring sky, and the smell of a duck roasting with figs and honey. See the whole picture, where the fate of a military campaign and the security of a family's home could both hinge on the behavior of this remarkable bird. The Roman duck was never just a duck. It was a guardian, a prophet, a soldier, and a savior. Its story a quiet, quacking testament to the hidden complexities of the ancient world. From the sacred temples to the soldier's mess kit, the Roman duck proved to be one of history's most versatile creatures. It was never just one thing, but a living, quacking thread woven through the entire fabric of the empire. We have seen it serve as a divine omen, its flight patterns directing armies, and its behavior halting construction projects on the word of the gods. We have followed it to the kitchen, where it was transformed from a common meal into a culinary masterpiece for the elite. It was a silent guardian on the farm, an economic engine supplying feathers and food, and a potent symbol of protection and transition in art and tomb. Its story is a powerful reminder that history is not only written in the deeds of emperors, but in the quiet, everyday partnerships between humans and the natural world. This common bird carried the weight of an empire's spiritual, military, and domestic life on its wings. So the next time you see a duck, remember it is not just a bird, it is a relic of an empire that found profound meaning in its every quack. What is the most surprising role you discovered? Share your thoughts on this quirky piece of history in the comments below, and subscribe for more journeys into the hidden corners of the ancient world.